Hello. Okay, so the title for this video is Hormones and Training for Females. I actually had started talking about this a long time ago, probably one of the first few online sessions that we did. It was a Wednesday, I remember. I think there was a few on that class, a Wednesday conditioning class. Anyway, the point was, I started looking into why some ladies felt like they could lift one thing on 1 week, and then the next week they mightn't be able to lift maybe 3/4 of that weight. So then I actually read a study by Schwartz et al. The title was A Review of Weight Control Strategies and Their Effects on Hormonal Balance. And then James Smith brought out a podcast on the hormones as well. So what's going to happen in this video is I've actually taken points from both of them. It's a mixture on those points and observations, my own observations from those two things. So if the two of them cross over, that's fine. And I just want to say this is my point of view as well. So it may not be 100% accurate, but we'll be in and around the ballpark with this. Okay, so to get going, women must keep the survival of the human race going. So they have genetic survival modes built in to ensure this happens, okay? So that's why women are different to men. They have different hormones going on. There's different things at play. So women will store more fat than men in preparation for pregnancy, okay? So that's part of their survival mode for the human race. If a member becomes too lean and does not have enough body fat, the body will not allow them to become pregnant by stopping the menstrual cycle. This actually happens a lot with physique competitors and bodybuilders, and is known as athletic amenorrhea. I think you say it like that. And obviously that's not great, but it is a common thing that happens, okay? Men too, if they don't use certain drugs or gear when they're in those bodybuilding competitions, they won't produce enough hormones to produce testosterone, or they won't have enough hormones to produce testosterone, and they won't be able to do certain things like perform down below, if you know what I mean. And again, that's not great. If those things are happening to your body for a sport, it's not for me. Now, I'm not bashing bodybuilding competitors at all. Their mental toughness, consistency and dedication to the sport is unbelievable. I just think that if you have to be probably at your physiological, maybe even psychological worst to be on stage when you're actually at your best shape, okay, to get to that shape, you're going to go through a lot of hardship with the body. It's just not really a sport for me, and I just want to talk about it a little bit further. So women on average will burn less calories than men, okay? If yourself if there was two people and they did the same thing, like at the exact same meals every day, for example, had half a pizza each with a portion of chips and 3 beers, right? A man and woman both had that. Then they went to the gym, did the exact same workout or test. Let's say, for another example, they went to a sports lab, both got hooked up for VO2 max testing for 30 minutes. You're both doing the exact same workload. It would actually be harder for the female to create the same calorie deficit as a man. I may be wrong here, but I believe the stat is it would take the female 25 to 30% longer in the gym to burn the same amount of fat. So that means it could take 30 minutes of exercise more than a man to burn the same amount of calories or to maintain the same calorie deficit. Now, that's a bit mad, but yeah, it's just going to take longer for the female to burn the same amount of calories. And again, that comes down to things at play, like men have more muscle mass, female are smaller, metabolism comes into play, okay? So another factor is when female diets, their bodies will fight back. So as part of those survival modes, there are hormones called leptin and ghrelin. Leptin will govern our satiety levels. I'll get that word out eventually. It catches me in every video. So satiation levels. Ghrelin will make us hungry. Leptin is a key player in the menstrual cycle, okay, and the total amount of calories that will be consumed. A female's leptin level will drop quicker than a man's when dieting. So 4 days into a severe diet, a woman will eat and not feel full and keep feeling hungry. Okay, so she'll keep eating, she just won't be as full. That hunger, they're kicking in. Okay, so we are learning that leptin is one of the built-in survival modes that will prevent women from getting too lean and therefore still be able to reproduce and keep the human race going. Okay, so from that then, another thing that has been noted is when a female is dieting, for some reason they will decrease their NEAT. So just to recap on NEAT, that's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's all the movement you do in a day that's not planned exercise. Okay, so let's say I give you your calories, protein target and your workouts every day. That's your EAT, your exercise activity thermogenesis. If I put you in a large enough deficit, it would be obvious that you would decrease your NEAT, okay? To either save the energy you have or because you don't have enough energy to move around as much. So if you think about it, if you're not eating as much calories, your body's going to prevent you from moving to save the energy that you have in the body. So that's one of the reasons. For some reason, I don't know if it's survival mode or a mental thing, but people will move less when dieting. They will sit down more, take the lift, etc. It could be a way of adapting to save calories while dieting. As I said, it's one of the survival modes that's probably built into us. So NEAT is important for weight loss. If someone neglects their NEAT more than another person, they will have worse results overall. Okay, so for weight loss, you need to focus on NEAT and you need to keep moving. When you hit a plateau, which happens to everyone when they're dieting or trying to lose body fat, instead of saying I'm going to eat less or I'm going to do an hour more cardio, why don't you focus on your NEAT? Just up your NEAT on previous levels, and in general you will see greater results. Okay, so simple things like parking further away from the front door of a shop, walking to the shops instead of driving at all, make your dog happy with more walks, although I'd say most dogs are actually hiding from people now at this stage of the isolation. But don't underestimate the power of NEAT up 247, which you'll often hear me say or talk about as well. So just to get a bit more into the physiology of the menstrual cycle. So the menstrual cycle is roughly 28 days and is in 4 phases. 1 menstruation, 2 follicular phase, 3 ovulation, and 4 the luteal phase or PMS, premenstrual syndrome. In the middle is day 14, and that's the ovulation or midway point. This is the point at which a female is most likely to get pregnant. On day 13, a female has the greatest amount of testosterone in the body, and this is when women generally feel strongest. PBs are hit in the gym. If you're lucky enough to be in a competition, it's the best time to lift. Okay, these first 2 weeks in the follicular phase are estrogen dominant, and estrogen plays an important role in the body. It plays a big role with muscle soreness and the oxidation of fat. After ovulation, we have the luteal phase. This is the progesterone dominant hormone. Okay, this is the last week, in which is also known as the PMS phase, and is the week before menstruation starts, that when menstruation starts again. So this is the phase where there's the highest chance of depression, the highest chance of injuries to occur, and also women are generally weaker than in previous weeks. You might have been able to, just say for instance, this is the time when you feel this, you might have been able to strict press, say 30 kgs for 5 reps the week before, and now you're struggling to do it for 1 rep and you're wondering what the hell is going on. This can be confusing and or demoralizing for a lot of women. Okay, so this is the time when we will adapt training a little bit. This is completely normal. So what we'll do is we'll go to lighter weights, we'll manipulate the weight or the tempo, etc. If you do track, like, this affects competitions, weightlifting, etc. So maybe, I don't know. Do you guys track your menstrual cycle or not? This is all new for me, but it's very interesting. So in the second half of the cycle, on average, there is a metabolic increase on average in women in this phase, and you guys will require between 100 to 300 more calories per day, just because of that metabolic increase. Most women will ignore this and stick to their deficit and end up binging and eating maybe 400 plus calories a day. So what will happen is you're on a calorie deficit, you're sticking to the calorie deficit, these hormones are kicking in, and the metabolic increase is making you more hungry because you're requiring that extra calories, but you don't do it. What happens is then you ignore it for a few days, and then bam, you go all out and have all the junk food that's available, and you could end up eating 400 calories per day, which puts you into a calorie surplus and therefore into weight gain. Okay, so what we think you should do is, when you're at the second half of the cycle and you suddenly start feeling hungrier, let's meet in the middle. Instead of being on a deficit of 300 calories and you need 100 to 300 more, maybe go to a deficit of 150 calories just through these 2 weeks, and curb those hunger urges by eating some more fruit during meals, etc. Okay, so when you're starting a diet, don't start a deficit when you're in your PMS or a week out from your cycle. It's better to start when you are in a stable place with no hunger cravings. Okay, so you'll have a miserable like if you start when you're in the week of your PMS, you're going to be miserable from the time you start, and you probably might even give up in the middle of it and stop. Okay, so when the best time to start a diet, or not diet, but the best time to start with a calorie deficit and going from there would be at the start of your cycle. Okay, so if you can increase your protein intake, your weight training you will never look back at cardio, spinning or body pump or any of those again. If you want to change the way you look, start training, which is resistance training and progressive overload, to increase lean muscle mass, which increase your metabolism, etc. So exactly what you're doing in HH, you're doing your progressive overload, so you're tracking everything you do. So what that means is you're doing 25 kgs for 5-inch strict press on week 1, you're doing 27.5 for 5 on week 2, and you're doing 30 kgs for week 3. You know what you hit the week before, so you're hitting a little bit more. That's progressive overload. That's the best way to increase muscle mass or lean muscle mass, okay, which is what we're after. So up in your protein, okay, up in your resistance training, a little bit of cardio in between. I know this is going to be easier said than done because we're not back to the gyms fully yet, but when we are back lifting, this is where we're going for. I know right now everyone's in cardio, so just recap that again. Resistance training, up in your protein, getting proper sleep levels, making sure your hydration is on point, getting 2-3 liters of water a day at least, and sticking to that calorie deficit, and being persistent and consistent with it. That's what's going to get you your fat loss goals. Okay, just to finish off now, I love social media, I get a lot from it, okay, but it's a double-edged sword, right? If I see the importance of it, I learn from it, I get ideas, etc. But it can be shit as well, because it forces unrealistic body goal images, and there are genetic freaks out there who model and make us all feel like shit, right? Some of these, in reality, these guys are boring. They're miserable. They have no social life because all they want to have is a six-pack, right? They're at home on a Saturday night weighing their broccoli, and are boring as fuck in general, right? Now, not all of them. Some are genetic freaks, as I said, but most of these, to have a six-pack and to have that low percentage body fat, you have to be so strict on yourself. You become antisocial, and you're boring. You're never going to have that slice of pizza. it's unrealistic. And it's not something you can do long term. Okay. My point with this was, don't follow these people that use hashtags body goals, because at the end of the day you'll come off the phone feeling a bit demoralized that they're living their best lives and looking great, and you feel like shit, right? Follow people on social media that when you look at them, or when you come off it, you feel like motivated, you feel good about yourself, and you don't feel demoralized. Okay. So yes, guys, ladies are different to men. The hormones are built in there for hundreds of thousands of years to keep the human race going. Okay, so this stuff is all new to me, but it blew my mind. Hormones are different over the month as well, week to week, not just start a cycle, end a cycle. There's things that are in play at all 4 parts of the cycle. So that's why one week you might lift 30 kgs for 5, the next week you mightn't be able to lift it for 1 rep. That's it. Bye.